What is a lie you have told that has gotten so ridiculously out of hand that you've had to keep building on it and is now a part of your life? When I was 10 I learned I could make myself throw up, so I used this to get out of school for like 2 weeks. My parents couldn't figure what was wrong with me because I didn't have a fever or anything. My aunt had the idea that I was allergic to red food dye because her grandson, my second cousin, was. I just kinda rolled with it, and so for years my house never had red Gatorade, strawberry Pop-Tarts, etc. I eventually told my parents I was faking it when I turned 20. They were not amused. Well, assuming you moved out at 18, you cost them 8 years of strawberry Pop-Tarts, you monster. Told my employer that I was Jewish, not Jewish. Had to research all their holidays, pick a temple to be a member of, etc. Had to get a new job. I did this as an older teen, into my early 20s, except I said I was a Seventh-day Adventist. I did this so that while I was working in retail jobs I could have Saturdays off. I had a friend who was a SDA when I was a kid, so I knew that they held Saturday as the holy day instead of Sunday. I'm the kind of person that always leaves my shoes tied and just slips them on. I'm dating this girl for a couple months and then one day my shoe gets untied but I'm too lazy to retie it. It really bothers her and she insists on me tying it. I really don't want to bend over and do it for some reason. It was around the time when Liam Neeson got his shoe tied by Olivia Wilde and I was crazy jealous because I really liked Olivia Wilde since watching House. She eventually asks me, "Don't you know how to tie your shoes?" In my head I'm seeing Liam Neeson getting his shoes tied by Olivia Wilde and how badass it looks. So I say, "Number. I never learned how. You can't tell anyone." To this day, when my shoe gets untied in public she will pull me off to the side away from other people and secretly tie my shoe. For some reason it makes her happy and it's the sweetest thing ever. I can't understand how she would even tolerate a grown man who doesn't know how to tie his own shoe. I'll never be Liam Neeson cool, but I found my Oliver Wilde. I'm 40 and I pretend I can't do up my own cuffs on my dress shirt so I can smell my wife's perfume and steal a kiss while she buttons them for me. When I was 13 I was playing World of Warcraft and someone asked me my age. 13 was so young, so I lied and said I was 14. Cause that meant I was so much more mature. Well, I kept playing WoW with the same group of people, and 4 years later they thought I was 18. Someone started asking me how my applications to college were going since I was that age. Being caught in the lie about my age, I played along and asked for advice. I played along with the advice, which resulted in me actually putting in a college application to a university and I got in as a high school junior. So to keep up this lie about my age I now had to finish high school quickly so I could actually go to this university that accepted me. Great part is that I was able to do this by overloading my spring semester of senior year high school with online classes. Yay, Florida online high school. I managed to graduate high school a year early and went to university a year early to keep this lie going. So here I am, at a university 1,000 miles from my home state, finished my BS and am now doing a master's. All because 14 sounded way more mature than 13 on a freaking video game. Sorry for formatting. On my cell phone in the lab I am working in for my master's project. LOL. This is either 1. The greatest true story ever, or 2. The basis for the greatest true story ever. I was on Reddit and made up this story about how I was working on a master's project. A year later people asked me if I had applied to a doctoral program. Being caught in the lie. This is a lie with a happy ending and I'll take it to my grave. TLDR. Mom prayed for help to fund a trip with her kids. Thinks he delivered. Background. My mother is a very emotional person and there are 5 boys in my family. So she doesn't get to have a lot of emotion moments that she gets to share with her kids. We mostly just make fun of her in a playful way and everyone moves on. She has cried at every big, medium, and small event in our lives, and I love that I have a woman in my life that cares so much about me and my siblings. Background 2. I was in butthole of a kid, but I am actively trying to make up for the patience my parents had for me. Story. My parents are almost empty nesters and live in Colorado. Last year by complete mistake all of her kids found job school in Utah County, Utah. We all live about 20 minutes from each other, completely on a fluke. My mother decided she wanted to take up on one last road trip, so we flew into Colorado, and she drove us back home. It doesn't sound like too much, but my family is poor and it was a very nice gesture. Plus there are places on the way we always used to stop at, like the Little America Hotel in WY, and the Grand America Brunch Buffet. All of this is far too expensive for my parents, so on the way I discreetly called and paid for everything. Or would sneak out during a meal to go to the bathroom and would slip a waiter a card. At each stop the staff would play along and mention how the room had to be changed so they gave it to us for free, or how a kind stranger paid for our meal. And I was never caught. My family's appreciation for the amazing people of the Midwest was too much for my mother, and she broke down to me and told me how she had no idea how she was going to pay for our trip, but she did it anyway because she wanted to be with her boys one last time before we were all too busy, or she too old. She then told me how she prayed for help and God gave it to her. I am not religious, but my mom is, and there is no way I'm going to tell her the most spiritual experience she had in a long time was her sneaky son. Love you mama. Moral of the story kids, being good to your parents can get you gold. Do I. This one made me cry. You are a wonderful son. In an ironic twist of fate, I used to tell people that I had a heart condition, and that's why I took pills daily. It's actually Prozac. Found out about a year and some change ago that I do, in fact, have a heart condition. I lied so hard that I retroactively gave myself a heart condition. Fake it till you make it. I have a horizontal scar on my stomach from a surgery I had when I was a baby. For some reason in elementary school I would tell everyone that it was from when a bear attacked me. I'm now almost 30 and people I went to elementary school with still recognize me in public as that guy that got attacked by a bear. I dislocated my knee dancing like a maniac whilst drunk in January. Ended up on crutches for 3 weeks. Told everyone at work I did it bending down to grab something from the freezer because I didn't want them to think I was a drunken maniac. People at work are still shocked that I dislocated it so easily and keep saying how unlucky I am and bringing the sympathy. Now I just feel like a fraud. I torn my ACL while dancing. Don't know how I managed that, but I told everybody it happened while gardening. Holy crap, I never thought it happened to so many people. If I knew that I would have never made up a story to cover it up. Pretty silly, but I think it fits the bill. When I was about 5 I remember being in the bathroom and brushing my teeth. My mum was there and berated me for something. Later, being a sensitive child, I was crying in bed about it. My parents came in all concerned and my mum asked, was it because I yelled at you earlier? Embarrassed at being caught out so easily I said number. I'm sad because I can't swim. Soon after I was taken to swimming lessons. I hated swimming. Somehow this is my favorite story so far. It reminds me of when I went bowling with my dad when I was like 6 or 7. I started crying because I sucked at bowling and kept getting gutters. Being a nice guy, my dad convinced me that I was crying because I drank my soda too fast. I guess that made sense when I was a kid. I am a professor and many times I will tell personal stories in an effort to demonstrate tough concepts. About half of these stories I made up at some point. I don't remember which ones are real and which ones are lies, so I just go with them and don't worry about it. I think you've reached a point where they're all true. Congrats. That I am allergic to bees. I was so scared of them in grade school and junior high that I convinced everybody that I am allergic so they don't judge me when I run from bees. As long as you are willing to experience the effect of an EpiPen when you don't need it, you're fine. Met my wife on one of those telephone chat dating things in the 90s. Basically, before OkCupid, you would sign up for a voicemail and describe yourself. We connected and went out but were both embarrassed for using it. Fast forward 18 years, we continue to tell everyone we met in the music section at Borders. A couple years ago, I went to a bar in a town I didn't expect to be in very often, and I decided to don a Scottish accent and make up a backstory for a fictitious version of myself. Now, I doubt my accent would have fooled someone actually from Edinburgh, but by the end of the night I had a group of Americans and one bemused Australian chatting with me about the things that make the US a strange place to visit from abroad. Shots were bought, backslaps given, and a good night had. I thought nothing else of it until I was dating a girl from the next town over, and she took me to her favorite bar. That bar, we walked in, someone greeted me by my name, and I did the only thing I could do, cheerfully donned my fraudulent accent, explained that my business trip had been indefinitely extended, and spent the next 20 minutes furtively explaining to my date that I wasn't a con man, just an ex-actor with terrible impulse control. While me and my so were still dating, maybe 2 weeks or so in, she winked at me when I walked into the pub she worked in. Me being the goof that I am, winked back but messed it up on purpose and just sort of shut my eyes tight for a second, making her believe that I couldn't wink. Now it's over 6 years later and she still doesn't think I'm capable of winking. One of my favorite things to do is just stand behind her and wink my butt off, purely for my own amusement. When I was a little kid, I told my mom I really liked her tuna casserole. I was just trying to be nice and pay her a compliment since she seemed like she was having a bad day. Pretty much every time I go to visit her she has some tuna casserole waiting for me. I don't actually like tuna casserole that much, but it's such a sweet gesture that I don't have the heart to tell her to stop. This has been going on for over 30 years now. Oh man, I mentioned something like these are some nice beets at the dinner table once. Didn't even think that much of it. We ate beets for 2 weeks straight. I never dare to mention I like beets again. When I was younger, I walking home at night and the street lights were off. I got scared and starting running. Knocked myself clean out on a lamppost. Someone walking their dog found me and called the ambulance. I was embarrassed when I woke up. I told the nurse I was mugged. I was 12. My parents turned up at the same time as the police. I gave a description that sounded a lot like Gonzo from the Muppets and police were searching the area with sniffer dogs. Thank Christ nobody was arrested and I still haven't told my parents. Yes, I still feel guilty now. I think it definitely snowballed out of control and I still can't tell my parents because of reasons. My brother had a GF with a younger sister my age and they all came to watch me play baseball once. I was pretty smitten with the younger sister and so after the game I started bragging about how I played guitar. My brother laughed in my face and said I had got a guitar but it had been collecting dust for months and I'd never have the patience to learn an instrument anyway. I was so embarrassed by being called out and doubted. I went home, told my mom I wanted to take lessons again. And here I am 20 years later still playing guitar every day. At least something productive came from your lie. When I was a kid, I got the bright idea to put a knotted cherry stem under my tongue, and then show my sister an untied stem and magically tie it in a knot in my mouth in seconds. Fast forward about 20 years, my entire extended family thinks I have this weird ability to tie knots with my tongue. It's a complete lie. At this point I refuse to do it, and get almost defensive when people bring it up or ask to show it again. Pretty sure I got the idea from The Simpsons or Pete and now has stuck with me as a curse. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt Season 2 Episode 13. I can't tie a cherry stem into a knot with my tongue. I just always keep one in my cheek in case it comes up. Jacqueline. I am currently studying Chinese in Beijing. My Chinese isn't that great and listening is by far my worst skill, so I will often get asked questions that I think I understand but don't. For instance, I was asked if you can haggle prices in America and I told the class you can. Since I am the only American in the class, nobody knows any better. All my lies are small and completely accidental, but there are so many of them. If anybody in that class actually goes to America, they are going to be in for a big surprise. And if any of them spoke English, they would know I am not an 18-year-old from a small town with no buses, trains, or taxis, who doesn't know how to properly use a fork and knife. To clarify, the context of the haggling was definitely meant to be haggling like you would find in China, at a fruit cart or the fake name brand purse stalls, not like complaining to a manager till you get a discount or going to a flea market. I know you can do both of those things in America. A girl I lived with 2 years ago thought I was stealing her yogurt out of the fridge. I told her it couldn't have been me since I'm allergic to dairy, and now I still can't eat dairy in front of her or anyone from that friend group. She made me a dairy-free cake for my birthday. The guilt is eating me alive. Yeah, I ate the freaking yogurt and it was delicious. Also, I'm not a guy. I was scared of heights and would get sick by the sight of blood. Needed a job. Lied about all this to become a firefighter. I love my job. Drive an ambulance too and overcame my fears. Happy ending. Good. My sister has told our family that she was abducted by aliens. She says that they come and take her once every few months and perform experiments on her. My parents found her an abduction support group and she has to go to meetings once a month. This has been going on for 7 years now. She told me that she was going to tell them initially it was an April Fool's Day prank, but she let it slide a little too long. Now look what happened. My daughter was accidentally conceived in a threesome when our friend's birth control failed. We just told everyone that we got a surrogate because my wife wanted to focus on her career. No one actually knows that our friend didn't want to get an abortion, so my wife and I decided to take the baby in as if she was ours. It actually worked pretty well. In the past 4 years since, my wife has been promoted and is making $ while I stay home with our daughter. My wife sometimes says that she accidentally had her cake and ate it because she now has a daughter and her body is still the same. I shat in a rock pool. We used to go camping in an idyllic beachside location with huge tides. 10m. When I was 12-13 we went for an explore and swim in the rock pools. I was away from the group and needed to poop. So I did. My parents were of the alternative persuasion and nude a lot of the time. I thought they would be fine with the naturalness of the thing. Wrong. 10 minutes later the group circles back and notice a huge stunned mullet. I was smirking until I realized that the sounds coming from them weren't laughter, but angry shock. Led by my father saying, "Who shoots in such a beautiful spot?" Totally taken aback, I suggested the short round friend Razzie. Everyone believed me and it has stuck ever since. Even till today, almost 20 years later, the family brings up the time Razzie shat in the rock pool. When I was a kid, for birthdays, my mom would always get us whatever cake we wanted: chocolate, vanilla, cookie, ice cream, etc. Well, one year, I was probably about 8 or 9, she got me an ice cream cake. I don't like ice cream cake at all. It's not even cake. I like cake. I like ice cream, but not ice cream cake. Well, she was so happy that she had gotten my favorite cake and flavor right that I just went along with it. Then next year, I got another ice cream cake. Still didn't say anything, not wanting to hurt her feelings again, and again the year after that. This has been going on every year since, and I'm now 30. Only my wife knows that I don't like ice cream cake, so each year she secretly gets me a cookie cake for at home and we don't tell my mom. I once told people I had been bitten by a venomous snake to get out of work for a few days. I had already called in sick a ton of times and just could not face them if I did it again. I am young and in good health. There is just no way even an old frail person is ill as much as I am calling in. So yes, snake bite. They knew I kept Venomous and I thought this is a great idea. Turns out they were fascinated and wanted to see, so I had to wrap my foot up in a huge bandage and hobble around for weeks. Luckily I was moving to another job I actually didn't hate a few weeks after that. I didn't have to deform my own foot or actually let one of my Venomous bite me so that I would not get busted. I was not far off doing so. That reminds me of a story my dad told me. He called out due to an injury so that he could go out with his friends. So that he wouldn't forget to limp at work, he put a Lego in his shoe. The slide broke. It shattered, but it's a great story. My chiropractor, great bloke, not great English, fairly gullible, lived with my drinking buddy at the time, and one night, with my last name being Rhodes, we decided to convince him I was the last of the ruling elites of Rhodesia in exile in Australia since the rise of Zimbabwe. Even set up a blog, Last of the Rhodesians, which got me in so much trouble when a sectarian took it over. Slipped an Leo DiCaprio's accent from Blood Diamond occasionally. All was going well. I'd go get my back fixed, spin a yarn about a semi-made up land and laugh all the way home. This went on for months. And then my mum invited my chiropractor, let's call him Patel, to a family barbecue. First thing he said to my mum, "So how did you get out of Rhodesia?" And a laugh went out so loud and so far, even Obi-freaking-Wan felt it. I was not the last king of Rhodesia, just a guy with a terrible sense of humor when drunk. A friend of mine was in his second year of university and at a networking business development event at the school. This guy was never much of an academic but was someone you would call street smart and good with people. My friend hits it off with the CEO of pretty sizable company. At the end of their chat, the CEO says stay in touch and let me know when you're graduating. My friend is pretty quick on his feet and said he was an alumni, there to help mentor students and catch up with other alumni. CEO set up an interview in the marketing department because he liked my friend's ideas during their initial convo. Of course, since the department head was told by the CEO to interview the guy, it was just a formality. My friend got the job and dropped out of school. He is now the marketing director of another major firm. This is 8 years later, and had never graduated from university, though he puts it on his resume. But by now his work experience is so strong that no one even cares about the school. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.